Thanks everyone for being with us tonight on our open book. Boy, I enjoyed this book, which I got to open again today, The Irish Goodbye by Beth Fennelly, who is the former poet laureate of the state of Mississippi, but I take some pleasure in seeing her antecedents go back to Chicago, like most great poetry. Oh, I shouldn't say that to the former poet laureate of Mississippi, but in any event, An Irish Goodbye, maybe it bears a little bit of explanation, is when somebody takes leave without bidding farewell, sometimes without being able to bid farewell. And this is a collection of micro-memoirs by this great poet, Beth Fennelly. And she considers love and parenthood and old pals and a cherished mother-in-law, who I hope we talk about, and a nude modeling session. Maybe we'll drop that. I don't know. And her sister Julie, who died in 2008 and is a presence throughout. So Beth Fennelly joins us now from Oxford, Mississippi. Thank you so much for being with us.
You bet. Thank you, Scott.
Was this hard to write, or?
Well, yes. I mean, I think everything is hard to write. I don't think it just flies off your fingers. So sometimes it was hard to write, emotionally, and sometimes it was hard to write because, I was caregiving for my mom and it was hard to find the time, or, just various things in my life would get in the way. So it did take me a while to put this book together. It actually also took me a while to figure out that I was writing one book instead of two. It took me a minute to figure out that the really short pieces, like 5 words or a sentence long or a paragraph, wanted to be in conversation with some of those longer, more meditative essays.
I would like you to read one of my favorite short pieces. It's called Married Love Playing the Long Game. Could we get you to
Yeah,
do
you betcha. Married love, playing the long game. Even now, 3 years later, when she opens the drawer beside the stove for an oven mitt, she finds the oven mitts folded. This was because 3 years earlier, during an intense game of categories, when the category was things you fold and the letter was O, her husband had written oven mitts. Nobody folds oven mitts, she scoffed and refused him his point, forcing him, ever since, to prove it.
Oh, I love that.
It's not so easy to come up with something that starts with an O that you fold.
Well, funny you should mention this because I did get an email from a reader out there who said that Tommy should have written omelets. That would have been perfect.
Okay.
If anybody out there in the chat can think of something that starts with the letter O and is something you fold, I'm sure my husband would be gratified. But in our house, I have been fighting the oven mitt war ever since. And even if you were to be able to go right now into my kitchen, you would find them folded.
Well,
Or dummy, says Lucy Fellows. Oh, we might have a winner. Take it,
I think that's wonderful. What are the virtues of writing the short form in memoir?
Well, this short form was really fun to work with. It allows me to, be a little greedy. I've written in a lot of different genres, and I am able to kind of steal what I like from all the different genres for this very short form. It's a little bit akin to flash fiction, but I'm telling true stories about my life, and I'm trying to get in and get out as fast as possible and just get to the heart of the story. So it's a little exercise in brevity and directness, and sometimes it's finding the right size idea or coming at something from an oblique angle.
Well, oven mitts is perfect. And I say that with all respect to the important role that oven mitts play in our society. One of the longer memoirs, though, is about you teaching English at a business college in Silesia. Silesia? Do I pronounce that right? Could I get you to talk about that? Because you had a nickname I didn't like.
Yes, I didn't much care for it either. When I was in the Czech Republic.
And this is right after the
Yeah, I mean, I graduated college in 1993, and at that point, a lot of interesting things were happening. The communist bloc was crumbling. And all of a sudden, these nations like Czechoslovakia had just split into the Czech and Slovak republics, and people were looking for English teachers so kids like me could go over. But also, it kind of gave me the feeling that I'd be helping, spread democracy and freedom of speech. And, at the time, I was this English major. I watched Rodney King be beat on national television. I watched his, attackers get acquitted. And I just thought, there's got to be a country out there who takes better care of people, who privileges the arts. And the leader of the Velvet Revolution, Václav Havel, was a persecuted poet. So I'm like, that's where I want to be. So I went over there to teach, to help, I thought, but I didn't succeed in making friends. I wasn't very likable. I felt a lot of shame about it. I tried to introduce myself to people. No one would talk to me. They all talked about me, but they actually couldn't say my name. This is the nickname part. The TH consonant cluster in Beth Ann, which is my name, the TH consonant cluster isn't in their language. They couldn't pronounce it. So they just called me Americanka, American woman, because I was the only one. That's the only name I had that year.
But you went back years later, and I found it very instructive what it says to us about, because had you not gone back, the memoir would have just been left there.
Yeah, had I not gone back, there wouldn't have been a memoir, because it would just be the story of a failed year. And one thing that memoir allows us to do is return to our past, armed with questions about things that we genuinely don't understand, and see if we can bring our reflective powers to bear. So I was there at age 21, very young, very, very naive. And I didn't have any friends, and I was really lonely, and I toughed it out. I went home, and then I didn't go back till I was literally twice that age. So I was 42, with 3 kids and a, writing career. And I was invited to read back, and I felt very happy. I was invited to read at the US Embassy, but I also a little bit felt like, okay, well, you didn't like me then, now you like me, and, I'm doing okay. I don't need you, whatever. But, I went back, and I went back to the coal mining village where I had lived, this very sad, polluted, depressed coal mining village on the Czech-Polish border. And everyone came out to see me, and they were so warm and affectionate. And one of them said, "Do you remember your nickname?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I remember, Americhanka, this name I hated so much." And they just died laughing. They're like, "Oh, yeah, Americhanka, we forgot about that. But don't you know your other nickname?" And I said, "Other nickname?"
Sure.
And they said, "Yeah, we called you Sunny Chicago."
Oh,
Yeah, it was so startling to me. They had this affectionate nickname for me, and I had no idea. And, I was so naive, and I had no access. Of course, there was no internet. I didn't have TV or newspapers, and I was there by myself, completely isolated. And I didn't understand that, they had been so oppressed by this terrible censorship and surveillance that when I showed up like, "Hi, let's make friends. You want to have coffee? I'm here to help." Of course they weren't open to me. Of course they were threatened by me and ignored me and avoided me. I just was too stupid and young to understand it at the time. Going back, let me learn how wrong I was about the experience. And in a way, Scott, it was painful because I had to rethink what that experience was and how it shaped my life.
What'd you wind up concluding?
I can't go back and change how it felt to live there. It's always going to feel like it was a lonely, very, very hard year when no one touched me that year. For example, I went a year without a hug. I mean, it was so polluted that, I would run and I'd cough and there'd be like a black scum in my palm. Like it was just a very hard, hard place to live. I'll never be able to think it was otherwise. But what I know now is how badly I misrepresented and understood the situation. I feel like I was an unreliable narrator. And it gave me insight into other times or other places where I might have misjudged the situation. Hopefully never that badly, but to be committed to being open to rethinking the situation when the facts come to you and you have to face the evidence that your interpretation was wrong. Because we have this idea that we can revise our writing. What we forget about sometimes is we can revise our thinking because it's painful. It's very wrenching to realize your interpretation of a set of events was in fact incorrect.
Boy, you loved your mother-in-law. Can I get you to talk about her?
Yeah, I sure did. Her name was Betty Franklin, and she died of Alzheimer's in 2019. And she was love as purely as I know it. Also, one reason why I wanted to write that essay is nobody is ever going to shine a light on a person like that. In our society, if you're not making money and, contributing to the bottom line or raising profits in the first quarter or whatever, no one ever going to say what you're doing is valued. You are important. So this is a woman, you know, she married when she was 18. Her whole life, she took care of her family. She never made a dollar. She never worked outside the home. She never had a drop of alcohol. She never wanted anything. She never asked for gifts. She never coveted anything that a neighbor had. She lived the simplest life imaginable. In the morning, she would read the Bible with her husband and they would hold hands. She'd fix him his breakfast. He would go to work. While he was gone, she'd take care of her children, their children. And then later, when the children were gone, she just volunteered for the church. And then her husband would come home. She'd have dinner waiting for him. They'd hold hands, pray the Bible, go to bed. The only time they were ever on an airplane was for our wedding, and she prayed the whole time. So what I also wanted to think about was I have this really good husband. We've been married, almost 28 years. And what does it mean to be married to somebody who came out of a woman like that? Like, we understand if someone was abused, they're more likely to have a difficult life, for sure. And in fact, studies show they're more likely to abuse their own children. What does it mean to be married to the son of a woman who was loved? And also an example to me of a kind of person who's deeply religious but doesn't make religion look bad and completely accepting. She didn't judge other people for, not rising to her standards. She thought she was the lowest of the low. She would never criticize anybody. And I had her in my life. I had her in my life, and toward the end of her life, I got to take care of her. Like, that's one of the great privileges of my life.
God bless. I got to ask about your sister.
Yeah. Well, that's another big sadness that runs through the book. I talk about the death of my mother-in-law. I talk about the death of my mother, also from Alzheimer's, and I also took care of her. And then I talk about my sister's surprise death in 2008. She just simply died in the middle of the night. And no one saw it coming, including her. Later, I'd find on her computer that the last thing she Googled was flu symptoms. So I've spent years not writing about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know why I wrote about it in this book at last. It's a mystery to me. I do think the heart has its own clock. Sometimes it just comes when it needs to come, and it came this time.
Well, it's beautiful, beautiful recollection. We do have a question, right?
We have a question from Esther O'Brien. What are your favorite literary destinations in Mississippi?
Oh, well, there's a bunch. But anybody who's coming to Mississippi should come to Oxford, Mississippi to Square Books, where Scott Simon is going to come with his new book. Am I right?
I hope so. We hope to hear about that. Yes.
Yeah, we got to make that happen for sure. But it's an incredible bookstore. It's the heart of our town. So, I know a lot of these viewers are from many places, and probably a lot of you have heard a lot of bad things about Mississippi. And guess what? They're all true. Highest teenage pregnancy rate, highest literacy rate, second highest incarceration rate. Thank you, Texas. All those bad things are true. Also, highest number of Pulitzer Prize-winning authors. Let's just get that part out there. So, we've been out punching our weight the whole time in terms of our literary output in Mississippi, and Oxford is a great example of that. We've got Faulkner's house here, which is now a museum. It's really beautiful to go and tour it. And then we have 4 independent bookstores on the 4 sides of our town square, a town of 26,903 people.
Wow. And the ghost of Willie Morris, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And T.S.A. Lehman was here, and Natasha Trethewey was here. And, I mean, if we're just going to go bigger, we're going to think about Welty and, just incredible literary tradition here. So I teach Mississippi literature. So my students have one little way to balance out being from Mississippi and being told to be ashamed of that fact.
Oh, we have another question from Mr.
From
Dickens.
Michael Dickens.
Yeah.
Were you influenced by Eudora Welty?
Gosh, I don't think I could honor myself by saying I've been influenced by Welty, but I teach her a lot. I particularly like to teach A Worn Path and Why I Live at the PO on the same day because they show such incredible breadth. And I think Welty was so incredible for being able to write this, comedic character and this mythic Natchez Trace wanderer that we see from such a far off distance. It's incredible to me that she could have written both those stories in 1941, just months apart. How do you do that, Eudora Welty? I don't know.
Who's reading poetry these days? Do you ever wonder, even worry?
Oh, worry? Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. The short answer is basically nobody, except when somebody's going to get married or someone's dying. That's when everyone wants their poetry, which is to say, we think we don't need poetry in our lives. But in the most important moments of our lives, nothing satisfies like a poem does.
Oh, my God. You're so right. Oh, my God. You're so right. Look, this is just wonderful. The Irish Goodbye micro-memoirs, Beth Ann Fennelly. I hope we talk to you again. Write another short book soon. Next couple of weeks, maybe, something like that. We can.
I would love to. But meanwhile, Scott, I want you to, promise you're going to come down and see me and bring Fabulous Caroline. And, we'll have a big old time. I'll take you to Roanoke.
Oh, my God. Well, let's work on our mutual publisher for that. Okay. Let's.
That's right.
I'm going to write him immediately again, as a matter of fact. Oh, haiku by Daisy.
Yes, Daisy would like to come.
Daisy would like to come. Daisy is our French poodle who writes haiku. I'm sorry she didn't write one tonight. She's French poodle. She thinks she's so intelligent. But haiku, it's just 575, right? It's not like epic poetry, right? But
a great haiku is epic, though. I love haiku.
All right. Hey, Daisy, you've got a fan here already, okay?
Okay, I'll give you by Isa a haiku to send us out the door.
Yes.
Not half the day. No one punished me.
Oh, my God.
You like it?
I do like it.
Okay. Or,
yeah.
Don't worry, spiders. I keep house casually. So good. I love him so much. Kobayashi Isa.
Yeah, all right. We could say that to our moths, too.
Yes, we're going to have to do a whole open book.
Or do a whole open book about insect poetry, insect haiku. So thanks very much. About haiku. So thanks very much for being with us on our open book. Tomorrow we have Andrew Krivak, if I'm not mistaken, who's written a quite wonderful novel, The Mule Boy. So we look forward to welcoming him, and we have lots of good stuff coming up. So thanks very much for being with us tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.